I grew up in a Christian home. As long as I can remember, my family's been part of church. It was really my parents' faith for a lot of years until I grew up and decided that this was actually worth living.
I grew up in a Christian home as well and was always in the church, and also became a Christian when I was 5. The church that I grew up attending, I started working there as the junior high coordinator and met this couple, Todd and Candy Smith, who were volunteers in junior high. And she said, just a couple weeks after meeting me, I'd like you to meet my son Josh someday.
Started dating September 90.
October 99, and we got married in August of 2001. Yeah. I grew up wanting to be a wife and a mother. That was my thing. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and raise babies. About 6 months into trying and nothing happening, I thought, this is not going to happen. I really think God has a different story written for us. And it was like equal parts wanting to fully embrace that, because the idea of God having a story that's different than most stories around you is really neat. But it also was like, wait a minute, I just want what kind of seems to be the easy route, and just to be able to have a baby. Mm-hmm. We did go see an infertility specialist just to see what was going on, if maybe there was something that was an easy fix. And they couldn't find anything that was preventing us from conceiving. So we were given the diagnosis of medically unexplained infertile, which to us was another confirmation that God had written a different story. He was continuing to direct us a different way. So adoption was something that we had always talked about. We both grew up thinking at some point in our lives this might happen. And so we started getting information from everywhere, from public agencies and private agencies and international. I had stuff coming in the mail kind of regularly. And we were really praying that, we knew God had a plan. We just wanted him to show us clearly what that was. And one day I thought, oh my word, duh, I was a social worker for kids in foster care. Why would we not look at that? We both imagined bringing home a little baby. And then one day I thought about the sibling groups that had to be separated. And I went to him and said, I know this is crazy, but will you think about and pray about starting our family with a sibling group, because we could keep kids together? And he said, if you tell me that you think we can do it, then I'm gonna believe you and say we can do it. And I said, I think we can do it. We were at a training, and our the social worker who was doing our home study was there at the training, and she said, hey, I just heard about a sibling group of 3 this morning. The oldest is 5 or almost 5, and it's 2 boys and a girl, and you could call their caseworker tomorrow and get more information. So those 3 kids turned out to be our oldest kiddos.
4.5, 2.5, and 15 months. It was crazy. It was an amazing story at that point too.
Yeah, we thought that was a big story.
We thought that was huge and awesome, and wow, look what you've done, God. And then our daughter started asking things like, I'd really like to have a sister. Can I have a little sister?
So I came to him and I said, do you think that God would give her the desire for a sister so that we would get licensed to foster to adopt again? And you said,
I'm pretty sure God doesn't work that way.
That was exactly the way that God worked. And I think it was like a couple weeks later that he came to me and said, I think that might be what he's doing. So we started the process to get licensed again. And at some point during that time, started having the conversation of, what if we were open to a sibling group again? What if we were open to a sibling group of 3 again? Because we did that already. So even though it's really hard and we're not like awesome at it, we do know how to do it. We know the logistics of it. And then there's another group that could stay together potentially, you know, that wouldn't have to be separated. So a couple months after we got licensed, we heard about another sibling group of 3, and the oldest had just turned 5, and then the next one had just turned 3, and then the youngest was 17 months. I thought the first time was really, really hard, but adding a second set of 3 was even harder. Similar situations that the kids came from, but the way that these kids responded to the abuse and neglect that they had suffered was much different than our older kids. So life at home was a lot rougher.
Yeah. The trauma that they had experienced had affected them in much deeper ways, much different ways, I should say, than our oldest 3.
The second set of 3 came to us in April of 2014. And when we found out their birth mother was pregnant, we had lots of conversations around, do we say that we'll be open to taking placement of this child? Would it be better if this baby went someplace else and we just focused on the 6 that we have now? And we felt like the Lord wanted us to be open to bringing the baby in if the baby needed placement. Children's Services contacted us to see if he could come stay with us for a few days to give them some time to process. And we got an email from the caseworker a few days later saying that he was staying. So we have 7 kids, and I had a lump on my neck that at first we thought was just from like having a cold, you know, your lymph nodes swell a little bit. After a few months of testing, found out that I had thyroid cancer and was going to need to have a total thyroidectomy. And then right around there, we found out that their birth mother was pregnant with twins.
Going from 7 to 9 children was it was just nuts. I always just say 9 is nuts.
My surgery November 13th of 2015, radiation January 20th, 2016, and then the twins were born February 2nd, 2016.
We have to believe that a God who would send his own son to die for us is going to equip us to be able to do the stuff that he wants us to do, even if that means it's 9 kids.
So we had been looking for a church that was a little closer to home for our family, and I drove past Redemption pretty regularly. Every time we walked in the door, we came separately a few times, and every time we walked in the door, something happened that we felt like this place is different.
Our kids are expected, and they're loved on when they're there, and our kids take a little extra work sometimes, but the church has been happy to find the people to help make that work every week. And that's amazing because it gives the 2 of us an opportunity to go to worship together. What he's done with them is a story of redemption. And what he is doing with us through this is a story of redemption. Whatever's happening in that little head and little heart, God is working on, and we get to be his agents in this world and in these kids' lives to help apply the gospel into it. We're the Smiths, and this is our redemption story.